on campus, snow's all over the place. Everyone's trying to do a great job of treating the sidewalks. But it seems like they want us to all walk in single file.
Yeah.
Because everywhere I walk, going up steps, down sidewalks, and I get it. They don't have the big shovels or the bandwidth to do the whole thing. But when you're walking and other people are on the sidewalk, everybody's single file because you can't walk side by side because there's not enough room.
Well, I understand this time. I can't remember the last time it snowed where I was on campus. I can't tell you if this is the same experience or not, but I do know this time it's ice, right? And have you shoveled ice?
I tried to with my little shovel, and it didn't go very well.
Did you break your shovel?
Yeah.
Yeah, everybody breaks their shovel when there's ice. So you have to get the metal shovel, and that's what these guys are doing.
Yeah.
And so would you want to do that work twice when you have to do the entirety of campus?
Yep.
Yeah, because I noticed that pathway by the parking garage. They only did the one side. And so I was like, I felt like someone was close behind me walking.
Yeah.
That's why.
Well, not just the typical campus creepers either, but like actual normal people who are just walking around.
Right.
I hate this weather. I have been told many, many times, like, oh, you're from Canada, right? Oh, you're from Canada. You should have some natural immunity to this.
Should have built-in snowshoes, right?
I was 6. I was 6 years old when I moved here. You know what I know about Canada? My neighbor had a better tree house than I did, and Ninja Turtles were pretty cool. That's it. That's all I got. If you were looking for like a deep cultural, anthropological understanding or some sort of like natural immunity that you build up over many winters, I wasn't there.
Yep.
I just think of ice hockey when you say Canada.
I do play ice hockey. I have to fulfill at least one Canadian stereotype. Otherwise, I'm not allowed to say out anymore.
Well, I think of Italians.
You are listening to The Soapbox. I'm Paul.
And I'm Eric.
This all started out with a list. What's that all about?
So I've compiled a list over the years of things that just bother me, things that grind my gears. And I shared that list with you.
And I thought, you know what? That would make interesting conversation. Sometimes I'm going to want to agree with you, and it's just going to be something we talk about. Other times, though, I'm going to want to steel man the opposite position because I think that's just interesting conversation.
Yeah, and keep in mind, I'm always right, but Paul's just a really good debater.
Hey. We have got another guest in the studio today, and I'm very excited because we actually have a family lineage. Did you know this?
Oh, I didn't know this.
Yeah, so Eric actually was responsible for me getting hired. Originally, when I came to work at KTC, I was going to apply at the College of Education, and Eric said, no, come work here.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, that sounds great. Anything but what I'm doing now. And then I got to sit on your hiring, right? And I actually got to like participate in whether or not we selected you or one of the many other fabulous candidates.
Wait, who are we talking about? They don't know yet.
Well, we are talking about Samantha Klinger. So AKA Sam, AKA our graphic designer / web person / social media person at KTC. Sam, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Doing well.
Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks.
So we have co-opted a space in our marketing department. This is actually earmarked for our director, and graciously he lets us do this in spite of the fact that it's not really work related.
We should have taken off our shoes. We're filming now, and
all you said was pants.
Yeah, well, stay seated, okay?
Okay. So, Sam, you work across the hall.
Yes.
We have been shameless promoters of the podcast for like 3 months now, and you have heard a couple of episodes. Is that right?
Yeah, and here I am now. I'm ready to be on it.
First season too.
So we're excited. When this thing blows up, just know that you were there at the beginning.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we're going to have you sign some paperwork about royalties and stuff later.
NDA, usual stuff.
Yeah.
It's all, boilerplate stuff. But yeah, we always ask a question on this podcast. Well, we don't always. We should always. That's the format. Ask this question. What is your soapbox, or what grinds your gears? And you came to us today with a topic I think is really interesting. You want to lead into it?
Yeah, I think I live at sort of like the end of an apartment complex, so I usually don't hear my neighbors, which is really great. But every once in a while, the townhome that's 3 stories backs up to my apartment that's on the 3rd floor. And I think in the winter time, those stairs have been definitely grinding my gears because I'm fearful of falling every time I go up and down. But also the parking lot, I get that they can't like plow every inch of it, but it's like an iceberg. It's like a moat, but of ice just to get to the unit, kind of just to walk up the stairs. So I would say the parking lot is a mess because everyone's just guessing where to park. And so it's a pet peeve when, like, it grinds my gears when someone parks super close to one side of the line and then if there's no other spots, you just have to park there and you can't get out of your door.
My kids actually laughed because I stopped and I took a picture. There was a car that said, "Please leave room for my door. I'm fat."
Wow.
Like, God bless your self-awareness. But I think this leads maybe into a deeper topic that we can kind of peel back some layers, and that's the perils of community living, or at least in having to live in close proximity to other people, right? Have you lived in apartments, I guess, your whole young adult life? Is that right?
So far, yeah. It's been 5 years.
Now, before that, you lived at home with your parents, or did you live in a dorm room?
So I lived in a dorm my freshman year, and it was one of those luxury dorms, like the full-size bed, and you had your own shower and bathroom and everything.
I'm nodding my head like I know, but do you know what the dorms were like back in the early 2000s?
Well, yeah. I actually, when I first toured here, I stayed in the Kerwin Tower.
So you know,
okay.
you had to
And
get
it was
shots.
my friend who kind of like brought me to UK. She stayed in that for the last time.
Now, you're originally from New York, is that right, or is it Florida?
I'm from Toledo, Ohio, but my
Ohio.
parents are from New York.
Okay, see, I know there's travel here, and I guess I'm trying to piece together what I think I know. So originally from Toledo, and you only came to Kentucky because your friend gave you the tour?
Pretty much, yeah.
That's how it happens sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, usually you follow a friend or a boyfriend. I think that's how it goes, right?
I almost did that one, but I was smart, so.
Dodged a bullet.
Yeah.
Awesome. So you, in close proximity to other people, you played a clip for us on your phone.
Yeah.
And when I heard it, it sounded like somebody being murdered. Is that what you thought?
Yeah, and it's funny knowing what had actually happened, how that plays out. But yes.
Yeah.
It was like kind of concerning because I just hear, and it's the sound through what I assume has to be like a paper thin wall, or a very, very loud person that's just screaming their
I mean,
head
they're
off.
pretty thick walls because I usually don't hear them. And I think because I know it's a family, I'm not concerned, but
But
maybe I should.
most murders happen between people that know each other.
Yeah.
The fact that it's a family, maybe you should be more concerned.
And also, I've never seen them in person.
Yeah, so you don't know how many bodies
don't
to
know.
count.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
I'm watching Elementary, the Sherlock Holmes.
Okay, yeah.
So I'm thinking murders. That's
Well, murder podcasts are huge right now, so maybe we just need to pivot. No, just
lean into that. All right, welcome to the Soapbox Murder Edition.
Yeah.
No, wait. We also tried to schedule you yesterday, and it fell through because of some neighbor issues
Because
too,
I
right?
didn't sleep because of, I think people were inspecting maybe the heating units because people were having issues. And so I was just up, till like 4.
Loud
because I could
noises
hear all
and-
of the
yeah.
noises. And
Yeah.
I
Running
did try to open the
generators and
window
things.
just to get like some fresh air. Maybe that'll help me sleep. And that made it worse because I could
It's
hear
9 degrees out
Yeah.
yesterday.
Yeah.
and that.
Yeah, for sure. Now, have you had any terrible neighbors?
Oh yes. When was this? 2003, 2002, 2003. Oh yeah. Moved into Gladman Way, and the neighbors. The parents were great, but twin troublesome boys.
Oh.
Mustang driving. Oh, it was just. It was Paul.
It was Paul.
Yeah.
It was a 1967 Mustang.
Yeah.
It had an V8 double barrel Holly carb. It would idle at 35. So when they changed the speed limits from 35 to 25 in neighborhoods, I had to ride my brakes the entire time.
Oh boy.
But it was a death trap. And I probably was a terrible neighbor. I'm sorry.
No. I say
Every
it-
time I started that car, I was self-conscious. Like, why did I let my dad talk me into getting this stupid thing?
No, that's how we met. Of course, we got to know your parents.
Oh, that's how you met.
Yeah, that's how we met.
Okay.
I moved in, and I think at that point you already moved out.
I was in college, and you guys had just moved in.
Yeah.
Probably within about the 6-month window of when I moved out.
Yeah,
So,
okay. So
I knew you for just a short time. At that point, Eric had long hair. And,
No.
Oh, yeah. Beautiful.
Yeah, and it was beautiful.
You gotta put a
I was-
picture up.
I was
Yeah,
already
we'll
bald. I was
Insert.
already bald. I went bald early.
Yeah.
I caught all sorts of grief from my friends, all sorts of bald jokes, and now every one of them except for one of the guys is bald.
Yeah.
So, karma.
And that guy's taking him, so.
Well, and now actually we make jokes about him having hair. So instead of bald jokes, we're like, hey, what's it like having to use shampoo? What's it like having to look in the mirror in the morning?
Good on you.
But I had an interesting, I can't call them a bad neighbor necessarily, but a neighbor that caused a bad thing.
Okay.
So I used to live in a duplex in Nicholasville, and we had a next door neighbor. We didn't know them very well, but it was this Hispanic gentleman, his wife, their daughter. They seemed pretty sweet. They were kind of low key and quiet. And then one day, there was a bunch of guys outside of our house, all dressed in black, with rifles pointed at the house, and they were like, "Get inside! Stay away from the windows." Which is not how I typically am greeted coming home in Nicholasville.
Yeah.
So that was a little weird. So we're inside like, what's going on? And then about an hour later, all the guys were gone, all the black SUVs or whatever they were in, gone. And the neighbor comes over and knocks on the door. And they're like, hey, we just wanted to apologize. That was the SWAT team. Oh. And what happened was he was using I guess a purchased Social Security number. He wasn't a legal citizen. And it just happened to belong to somebody that was like kind of a bad person. So they thought he was that bad person. And they said, like, we're not immigration. We don't care about that, but maybe you should pay a little bit more and get the premium. Like, I'm not a federal criminal SSN.
It's an available Social Security number because he's in prison. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was wild.
That's wild. Yeah.
And then if you want to go deep cuts, roommates. I know you have had roommates and currently have a roommate, so this may be a taboo, and I'm not going to ask you to name names just in case they might hear. But I had a roommate who I did not know at all before I moved out. So the 6-month window of knowing Eric, I decided I wanted to get out of my house. And I did. When I did, I just picked a guy I worked with.
So you did not random roommate or kind of?
Kind of.
Because I did that freshman year, fully random, but it went great. So.
Oh, it went great. I was going to ask how it went. Because for me, it was abysmal.
Okay.
The guy that I selected was a guy that I worked with at Best Buy. He seemed like an okay guy. He was nerdy kind of guy. I was a nerdy kind of guy. It seemed like it was going to work, and then it did not work at all. He got a girlfriend shortly after we moved in together. All they wanted to do was sit on the couch, eat like freezer fried food that he'd put in a deep fryer and refry. So the whole house smelled like McDonald's.
Yeah.
We had a porch, and I asked him, hey, could you put that on the porch? No, I don't want to do that. And then there were 2 bathrooms in our apartment. One was an ensuite, and that was attached to my bedroom because I was the guy that wanted a roommate. Not, it wasn't like
Gotcha.
So I got the premier suite. With
The
problem with that was the other bathroom, the one that everybody would use when they came over, was his bathroom.
That's like my bathroom.
And he never cleaned it. And his toilet was like black. It was disgusting.
Yeah, that's gross.
Like so gross. And I told him, I'm like, look, when we have guests over, I'm happy to let them go through my bedroom to use the bathroom in there because your bathroom's gross, but I'm also happy just to clean your bathroom. Like, because that's embarrassing. And he's like, don't touch it, I'll take care of it. And then he wouldn't.
Wow.
But the worst about this guy, like those things are understandable among young men who have not grown up having to take care of themselves. But one day he gets this wild hair, and he goes over to Home Depot and he buys some construction fencing, like the roll plastic fence that you can put in your yard with stakes. And I don't know how he attached it, but he attached it to the wall next to his bed, and he made a ball pit like you'd see over at Chuck E. Cheese. And he bought a bunch of those little plastic balls, and he put it in this little fenced-off area next to his bed. And we're like, you're 20, right?
Yeah.
What are you doing? What is this? And we asked questions, and he was like this kind of like, again, like nerdy, but like if I'm nerdy, then he's several deviations nerdier in every way.
Yeah.
And he wouldn't talk about the ball pit, not that much. Oh, it's fun, it's silly, it's whatever. Then he moves out, and when he's emptying the ball pit, we find a condom stuck to the wall.
Okay.
And
no.
Oh no.
That's what that. Yeah.
Yep. We assumed, but then we got confirmation. Worst roommate ever. Very inconsiderate guy. Just couldn't see eye to eye. He'd probably say the same thing about me.
Wow.
But I clean my toilet and my ball pit. So
Well, there you go. I mean, yeah, I haven't had any bad roommates or horror stories, but the way that I met my freshman year roommate is pretty interesting because I wasn't fully signed on to be going to UK because my parents were like, that's really far. Why don't you look at like an Ohio school? And so I had met this girl just on Instagram with the same last name. And I was like, we must be related, right? So we become like internet friends, and we still are to this day. Same last name. And she was like, I go to high school with this girl who's going to UK. Like, maybe you guys could be roommates. And I was like, yeah, sure. I'm totally going there. She's like, have you, accepted the offer? I was like, yep, I have. And we pick out the room and everything online. I tell my parents, I was like, I found a roommate. Like I have to go there now. And yeah, she's from California, and her dad actually used to be an assistant basketball coach here. So she would casually throw out like, hey, I'm going to John Calipari's house for dinner if you want to go. And I didn't really put two and two together at the time, but
wow.
It was really cool. And she's from, they live in Santa Clara now. So we still keep in touch.
So you had dinner at Coach Cal's?
Well, I didn't actually go, but
okay.
Because I didn't know, I wasn't familiar with like basketball or anything at the time. But yeah,
That's missed opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
But
Well, now in Kentucky, nobody would care. I think back then that would have been seen as a black eye. Have I told the story about pretending to like basketball?
I don't know if we've done that. Maybe.
Done that here?
you don't like it?
It's not that I don't like it. I'm not like
Do you not like going to the watch parties that you host?
I enjoy the watch party.
Okay.
I don't watch.
I was going to say,
I'm just talking to other people. But I don't think I've got the attention span for sports. I'll sit there and I'm not like against it. But one, I don't understand how people can get so emotionally invested in the performance of other people that it makes or breaks their day, because they literally don't contribute anything to the sport, right? Also, I don't have a head for names, so when people want to talk shop and they're like, oh, so-and-so has got such and such percentage on whatever metric, I don't know any of those things, and so I feel like the dumb guy in the room. I could probably catch up, but it's just like, it's a competition, and it's a competition I don't care to participate in. Like, I also couldn't sit for 2 hours uninterrupted and watch something that doesn't have some sort of narrative.
That's the whole episode I think we got on the list to unpack. I'll say I don't really think I have any horror roommate stories. We did have neighbors on Woodford before we moved to Gladman that were so frustrated with our slow frequency of mowing our lawn that they just started mowing our lawn for us.
Oh.
There were two gay guys that lived next door that actually told us initially that they wanted the clippings to put in their garden for compost or something. And I think that was just their way of saying, oh, no,
It was the cover story. It was for their ball pit.
It was for the ball pit. But anyway, they were super cool. But yeah, I think we had to actually go get a lawnmower from Dave's dad's house or something to mow. So it was kind of a pain to mow. So they ended up just doing it. And sort of like a year they did that. But that house had a few different roommates rolling in and out of. But at one point, our friend Harry lived there and didn't take a room. And he slept behind the rock climbing wall that we built. We built a rock climbing wall, like overhung, so it's on an angle
in the house.
In the house, we had this.
Hold on, inside or not outside? I'm picturing like a play set.
Inside the house, we had this huge front room that we ended up having a pool table in.
Is this a rental?
We were renting this place.
Well, okay.
How did your landlord feel about having a rock climbing wall?
I mean, wasn't hurting anything. Didn't care.
He's going to be on a podcast. Like, have you ever had a really bad tenant? And like, let me tell you about the guys that built the rock climbing
So the
wall.
ceilings must have been tall enough.
Yeah. Well, and the advantage again, it was overhung, so it didn't go straight up and down. It was leaning,
Okay.
so we could get extra height that way, and then that way it's harder. And then below it were a bunch of mattresses, and I'm talking found on the side of the road, left over. With a questionable yellow spot. I mean, all
motivation not to fall.
Yeah, exactly.
Why wouldn't you pick a room?
It was Harry. I don't know. And yeah, he slept behind the thing. He grabbed one of the mattresses and just
Where did he put his clothing?
Nah.
It's a rock climbers, right?
Okay.
This guy,
Yeah.
this guy wasn't even a rock climber. It was roommate Dave, and I was a rock climber back then. Oh, I would do the dumbest thing in the world, and I think I feel it now. But I would do pull-ups with my middle fingers, 2 middle fingers, and do pull-ups.
Man, you were committed.
That's
When you
crazy.
wanted to flip somebody off, you're like, we're going to do this with style.
It was just dumb as opening.
Can I suggest just making faces instead?
Yeah, I should go with faces, but no, I think I'd heard someone say it strengthens your tendons, you're strong, and then it was like,
Was that true?
I probably not. I think I've done lasting damage to my fingers. So anyway, yeah.
Awesome. Well, let's flip the script then. And best neighbors. Have you had anybody that was
Ooh.
really fantastic?
I think I've told you before, Gordie Howe from the Detroit Red Wings.
I was hoping that was going to
Yes,
come up.
his son was my neighbor growing up. And
Really?
I've always had like the best neighbors. That was the saddest part about when my parents sold our house in Toledo was the neighbors, but we are still all like really close. And the kids I grew up with, we lived at the end of a cul-de-sac, so we would all just play outside all the time. We were not iPad kids. We were always outside. And
I wasn't an iPad kid either.
yeah.
Yeah.
I am now.
No, I wasn't.
But no,
I'm still-
they're great. And even like my parents, they moved down to Florida now and they're in an HOA, which is a really crazy. Yeah, I've learned that's really
It's like
interesting.
the microcosm of government equals bad, right?
It's wild, those neighborhoods. But so far, so good there. I feel really safe. Like I can go on a walk completely alone at night and nothing's going to happen.
So you told me that you lived next to Gordie Howe's family,
Mm-hmm.
and in high school, in an English class where I wasn't feeling particularly motivated, we were supposed to read a bibliography and then write a book report on this.
Mm-hmm.
And being from Canada, I was like, okay, maybe I could do a hockey thing, right?
Yeah.
And at this point, you have to understand I didn't watch hockey. I wasn't yet playing hockey. I only picked it because I'm from Canada and that's it.
Yeah.
People expect this from me. I don't know. No good reason. But I also wasn't interested in it, so I didn't read it.
Mm-hmm.
And instead, I wrote a completely fictitious life of Gordie Howe.
Okay. Yeah.
So I picked Gordie Howe. My dad's like, oh, yeah, attaboy, Gordie Howe, greatest player of all time, better than Wayne Gretzky. And he's going to listen to this, so I hope that I got that right. I don't know if Gretzky's better or Gordie Howe's better, because as previously stated, I don't watch sports. But I made up a life for this guy, and I made it like Lifetime television quality.
Wow.
So I was like, yeah, Gordie Howe, when he was 16 years old, he and his twin brother used to play hockey together. And they were driving one day and hit a slick of black ice, and the car spun out and hit a tree, and his brother died, and he watched him die. And so to honor his legacy, he really doubled down
On ice?
On ice hockey.
well, on the hockey that they'd played together, the sport they both loved. And
Gotcha.
so, and to honor his brother, he persevered and he succeeded, and then he became this great player. And really, I was just like looking up like the Cliff's Notes of like, okay, here's some stats, here's some teams he played with, here's some cities he lived in. I did not read the book. I still to this day don't know that much about the man. But I wrote this report, and my teacher, in the margin, she was like, what a fascinating story. I had no idea. I'm going to have to read this book. And the rest of the semester, I'm like, please God, don't read that book
Yeah.
until after the grades are finalized.
Wow.
Oh wow. Neighbors. That's a. I'm kind of going through. Obviously, Gladman was rough. Not good there. Yeah. I honestly, where I live now in Westmeath, it's a road that basically starts on Gladman and ends on on Wellington. So it's like the only people that turn on
Okay.
it are people that live there.
Yeah.
It's a horrible cut through because it's longer than any other route. So
Where's Wellington again? I'm trying to like map.
Wellington goes from Palomar to the big roundabout by the mall, by Meyer and.
I know exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like that area.
Yeah, so it's a real nice neighborhood, and honestly, we have just the greatest neighbors.
That's good.
The whole street, we pretty much know everybody. I mean, we know at least 50% of the houses. A lot of the kids, at the same age as my kids. So, we've been there 13 years, something like that, 12 years, and we used to have cookouts and get-togethers. I mean, 4 or 5 a year.
I still do. You do a Friendsgiving, right?
Well, friends, yeah, that's a less of a neighborhood thing.
Like a neighborhood block party. That's what the house would do. And so Gordy would be there.
Yeah.
And people
So you met him.
I didn't know who he was at the time, and then he would take walks.
You can claim that, though. You can
I
still
probably
say,
will.
I've met him.
I do have his hockey stick signed, so I can say
awesome.
that.
Oh, there you go.
I don't have it, but
it's there.
yeah, it's there. Block party, okay?
Yeah, but the block, I will say the block parties were just, I'm a party planner guy, extrovert. I love that stuff.
If you don't know Eric, he is 100% on the spectrum.
You are the party planner.
Of extrovert versus introvert. You are 100% extrovert.
Yeah.
To the point where I thought I was an extrovert, and I get tired. I'm like, okay, put it away. We were just at a conference. You want to hang out again?
No, but it was a sad day. COVID hit, kind of put obviously the kibosh on some get-togethers. Then we realized, okay, we could be outside, and so we had a few. But then the kids kind of aged out, and now like I think I've tried the last couple of years to do a 4th of July here or there, and it's usually crickets, and it's kind of got to the point where we're no longer getting together for the kids. So the adults are kind of all meh. But
that kind of reminds me of a Christian meme I saw. And I said, nobody gives Jesus credit for his most impressive miracle of having 12 close friends in his 30s.
Oh, well, yeah. Yeah.
It's harder. I think it's harder when you get older, but there's phases, because you've got the phase of being a young adult and hanging out with other young adults. And you're in transition, Sam, right now, I think, because you're out of the college environment where everybody around you is a peer, and now you're in a different group where you're maybe the young person in most rooms professionally, and then your social circles are going to start to branch off as people get married and move.
Yeah, I'm in that era right now.
And that's a difficult time, because now you're sort of having to figure out your identity again. But then you have kids, and kids become social glue.
Yeah, they do.
For a good decade and a half. And I'm right in the thick of that. Pretty much all of our social circles are something to do with kids' sports or extracurricular activities, and you're graduating out of that. Yeah,
so I'd been thinking a lot about this, getting off topic, but it happens. But yeah, I'm kind of we're starting to kind of think about the empty nest is happening in 5 years.
Oh wow!
Yeah, Viv's driving, so we don't have to take her places right now. She can take Vincent places, and and then Vincent's going to start high school next year in the fall, and then I don't know. It's a weird thing to think about, but it's exciting too. Got the we've already got kind of plans for an Australia trip.
Ooh.
Yeah, I did Australia. I did 4 weeks and 3 weeks in Sydney, and then I did 1 week backpacking in the Blue Mountains, and 10 out of 10. It was the best trip of my life. It was so good. Yeah. And I lost 25 pounds in 4 weeks.
Wow.
Well, you walked 90 miles once because you got lost.
I did, yeah. Have I ever told you this story?
I don't know.
So this was when my wife and I were dating, and she was a missionary in Papua New Guinea for 2 years, and so we were doing long distance dating, which awful, horrible, even worse back then because the technology wasn't as good. We couldn't communicate. But we agreed to hang out in Australia kind of in midway through this trip. So I was very excited because we were going to spend Christmas, New Year's, and her birthday all together.
Fun.
Right? So it was going to be 3 weeks of just celebration, great time. And while we're in the Blue Mountains, we were staying in a hostel. And in the lobby of the hostel, they just had some maps, but not very good maps. The maps didn't show scale. And so we saw this thing, and it was a line from here to here. Let's do that trail.
Can't be hard.
Yeah, right, because it's a line this
straight,
big, 2-inch line on a little map. Well, we packed a bag of trail mix, the 1 quart bags, Ziploc bag of trail mix, 2 single-liter bottles of water, and then we found a guy named Thomas from Chicago, random guy that wanted to go on this trail with us. We're like, hey, let's go do this thing. Well, it turns out that little 2-inch line was actually 18 kilometers.
Oh.
So we get out there and we're just hiking and hiking and hiking. And at first we're enthusiastic and I'm seeing wildlife and I'm doing my worst Steve Irwin impression. Oi, there's an echidna. Hey, little guy.
That's pretty good.
And then 7 or 8 hours later, I'm like, this is a lot.
Yeah.
And we ran into whatever the Australian equivalent of the Boy Scouts are. And they said, where are you hiking, mate? Or where you camping, mate? We're not camping. We're going to go back. And they look at us and they're like, really? Good luck. I'm like, oh no. And then I passed a marker, and it was like in memorial of somebody who had died on this trail. And I'm like, what's my marker going to look like when I die here?
Yeah.
So I think it was about 12 kilometers in, I'm dying because I wasn't hiking guy. I wasn't athletic. And it was uphill, downhill, kind of like if you go hiking in Red River Gorge.
I've like never hiked before. I probably should.
Don't. It
one day.
sucks.
Okay.
Yeah, I hate it.
Or not.
And if you're a fan of hiking, blast me in the comments. But I stand by my statement. It hurt my body. I did not like it.
I've never understood why you guys didn't just walk
A little bit.
3 hours and go, all right, it's 3 hours back. So
This is my wife. This is her fault. And I would say this with her in the room, so I don't feel bad saying it on the podcast. But she would say, "One more hill." She had no idea.
It sounds like something I'd do.
She was just looking at this little map, and she was just trying to keep me motivated. And we were both high on optimism because we hadn't seen each other forever.
Yeah.
And I was trying to impress her because we were still dating. So like there was a lot of like just factors at play that just removed rational thinking from the experience.
Yeah, that's fair.
Finally, it's nighttime. It's getting cold now. It's Australian summer. I was wearing blue jeans, which was just stupid.
Yeah.
It was like 80 or 90 degrees during the daytime. At night, I was thankful for that. But we're cut all to pieces from like the sharp plants that are on the trail and stuff. So I'm bleeding, and we're tired. We're out of water. We haven't eaten in hours, and I get cell phone signal on my BlackBerry because we didn't have iPhones back then.
yeah.
And I was like, I don't know where we are, but I figured out how to call the Australian version of 911. I don't remember how I did that. I'm grateful that I did. They found us based on our very crude description of where we started and where we were, and we somehow got a taxi.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
And it turns out we would have had to hike another 6 kilometers from where we were to get back to our hostel.
Wow.
So
That's crazy. I feel like I have so many questions about a hostel, but we can talk about that another time.
it's a great experience, but not one for me today.
Yeah.
Not great neighbors in those hostels, I think.
Oh boy.
No, but a lot of lovemaking happening at the hostels. Yeah, you want to talk about noisy neighbors.
Gotcha.
We had some noisy neighbors.
Condoms in the ball pit.
That's the craziest part.
It
Yeah.
really is. Well, yeah.
Awesome. Well, Sam, thanks for joining us on the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Kind of all over the map here, but I definitely appreciate you coming and
That was fun.
being a part. And
It's a good time.
back.
Yeah. And you seem so comfortable. That's amazing.
Now it's easy breezy.
Yeah.
You're natural. So now you're going to have to do this for work. So.
Yep.
There we go.
Good luck.
Thanks for listening to The Soapbox. Eric, how can people find us?
Well, conveniently, we put everything on our Linktree site. You can go to Linktree, search SoapBox Lex, and you'll find all of our socials there, plus ways to reach us, ways to engage, and some of our original content, so you can see some of the other stuff that we do.